Hello, and welcome to Longwood GradCast, Beyond a Degree. I'm your host and Assistant Dean of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, Dr. Sarah Tanner Anderson. In this series, we'll dive deep into the stories of Longwood University's graduate and professional studies alumni, students, and faculty who are achieving remarkable success. Whether you're an aspiring graduate student, a proud alum, or simply curious about the extraordinary journeys our Longwood graduates take beyond their degree, this podcast is your backstage pass to the transformative power of education coupled with determination. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and awed by stories that prove there are no limits to what a Longwood Lancer can achieve. Welcome back to another episode of Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. I am your host, Sarah Tanner Anderson, and I am delighted to have with me today Allison Donlan, a triple Lancer, if you will, who is so excited to share a bit about her journey with us today. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and talk to you today.
We're so excited to have you, and it's so wonderful to hear your voice. I have certainly missed hearing that shining voice, and I'm excited to hear what you've been up to, Allison. So I guess we'll kick off with your pathway. So your academic journey at Longwood spans a bachelor's in elementary education, a master's in educational leadership, and now a current pursuit of a graduate endorsement in reading literacy and learning. So what motivated you to pursue such a diverse range of qualifications and all from Longwood?
Yes, it absolutely did not start out that way. As I was going, I started to get more inspired. But to go back to the beginning, it was great teachers that I had in K through 12 that inspired me to want to be a great teacher myself. And then I heard about Longwood from a family friend, and I fell in love with it when I toured. And I went to Longwood for my undergrad. And as I was in my undergrad, I was so inspired by my professors. And towards the end of my undergrad, I was really passionate, or still am really passionate about education. And I had a strong belief in leading from where I am. And it was actually you that came and spoke to one of my undergrad classes. And you actually said those words exactly. And I was like, wow, what fate miracle to hear this. And I went into ed leadership to learn more about how to lead from where I am and fill up my toolbox. And then in my first year teaching, while I was finishing up my ed leadership degree, it was my students that then inspired me, and how they came in not knowing their letters and sounds and were leaving me just with so much growth and progress that inspired me to get my endorsement in reading literacy and learning so I could better support them.
I think that's wonderful. And to know that you can and you do lead from where you are, and also consider the needs of those around you and rise to that challenge. Allison, I think that you have done so well. And so how have these three educational experiences then shaped your perspective on education as a career in the field?
I think shaped me in more ways than I can even explain. The importance of collaboration and leaning on other people, leaning on my cohort throughout my graduate programs, supporting students, knowing that everybody has a common goal, that you just want to support the students around you. The toolbox of ed leadership has helped me with my confidence and working with other people. And then my reading literacy and learning degree has helped me better support the students in reading, and then my working with my teammates as well, so we can all better support those kids.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned a little bit about how each interaction and maybe different in collaboration gave you an opportunity to be reflective about your process. And so considering all of those transition points, what prompted each shift and how did you navigate those shifts?
So I think the original prompt that started with undergrad to ed leadership was you speaking to my classroom.
Yeah.
And then realizing that I can lead from where I am. It doesn't need to be a title. It can be from right here, and I can help support students, help support my colleagues, my cohort, leading from where I am. And then in the ed leadership degree, transition to the reading literacy and learning degree. What sparked that transition was my students and seeing them grow. And it was actually, I talked to my principal at the time, and I asked if I could loop with my kindergarten students up to first grade. And watching that growth in real time helped support me through that transition and being able to apply what I was learning in reading literacy and learning with the students that inspired me to get that degree. that's really what kept me going and helped that transition.
And it sounds like each step along the way has empowered you to take on that next career pathway, which is wonderful. And you're able to use what you've learned from each of the degrees you've gotten here at Longwood
Yes.
to impact your community and your students in really powerful ways. That is fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. So not only were you getting degrees while you were here at Longwood, you were also very involved. You were involved in cheerleading. You were in SGA. You served as a Longwood peer mentor. Also, I know that you were very involved when you were getting your graduate degrees as well out in your communities. So how did all those activities contribute to your overall Longwood experience?
I think the best thing about Longwood is the community and how you lift each other up, and finding your spot really is what makes Longwood. And I think being involved in those different organizations through my time in undergrad and currently in graduate school, that's what makes Longwood so special to me. And that's what makes Longwood feel like a home for me and has inspired me to be where I am today. And I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those communities and the people I met through them.
And it sounds like there were lots of things, lots of wheels spinning in all different directions. So how did you juggle all of those roles and maintain some sense of balance in all of those roles at Longwood? And then maybe how did that help you to do the same in your career?
Absolutely. So I definitely learned a lot about time management, and then I had to figure out what worked best for me. What works best for me that I learned in undergrad that I actually am still using today in grad school is making sure I set aside time for grad school and then for my job as a teacher and then also for personal life. And I think it's important to stay on top of it. And then setting set time is really what gets me to get what I need to accomplish done.
I think that's a great piece of advice too for anyone. I think we're all looking for tips and tricks for time management in our busy lives. So thank you for sharing that too. So I guess thinking about your dual degrees and how your career aspirations have shifted and ebbed and flowed over the past several years, if you can think back to your master's in educational leadership, are there leadership experiences that you believe have had a direct impact on your effectiveness as an educator?
Absolutely. I think the first thing that pops into my mind is my internship experience and going into different schools and then my current school and having different experiences that I wouldn't have had if it weren't for ed leadership. A specific example of that would be I had the opportunity to go into a middle school and support with behavior. And that experience taught me a lot about behavior management, communication, relationships with not only students, but parents as well. And I learned that in my internship in ed leadership that I apply every day in my role as a first grade teacher currently.
I'm sure that you do. And I think I am a recovering middle school principal myself. I tell people all the time. And so you learn a lot a day
Yeah.
in the middle school, a lot about the kiddos and what makes them tick. So that's very interesting that you were able to then take that into your elementary placement and particularly into your career path now. And so I know you've had career aspirations for curriculum design. You've spent some time with instructional coaching. So how do you see that educational leadership degree and your RL degree blending together to create some maybe effective and inclusive literacy focused curriculum plans? What do you think about that?
I think the biggest thing I learned in ed leadership is the importance of collaboration, and all those tools that I learned in ed leadership of combining with what I'm learning in R right now is how I can best support my team, my leadership, anybody that needs help or would want to learn about RLL. I can use it all together to help support each other, and in that way we can trickle down and help support the students as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And I know that our schools are in desperate need for folks who get literacy, particularly right now, and being able to support our students, but also support one another in the spirit of collaboration, supporting colleagues in the work as well. So it certainly sounds like your preparation has provided you some opportunity to think about that as well. So you also had the unique experience to be a graduate assistant for the special education department when you were here at Longwood, which I'm sure just even broadened your experience and gave you more of an opportunity to connect with others. How did that experience impact you as an educator, and particularly as an educator of literacy for your diverse student population?
Yes. So I think it was really interesting because my main role for my graduate assistantship was to tutor undergraduates for the VCLA, which is a literacy exam that undergraduates take to get their teaching license. And I didn't know it then, but I think that was what sparked my interest and passion for reading, that I then that spark kind of just ignited as I went into my first year teaching. So that is where my love for literacy started, was in that graduate assistantship. And then being supported by the wonderful special education professors is what helped that grow into where I am today.
I think it sounds like you have had an incredibly impactful experience in all of the different areas of your graduate preparation. And so I'm thankful that you were able to engage in those different opportunities while you were a graduate student and have been able to be reflective on the ways in which they've impacted you as an educator. And it sounds like you're an amazing unicorn, Allison, in that you have so much to offer your students and your community through all of these degrees. With all of your experiences, with all of your degrees, how do you see all of this coming together, big picture? And maybe if you could provide a couple specific examples, maybe from your grad programs, from your current experience now, where you're able to really apply in a practical way the things that you've learned throughout these programs.
So with ed leadership, I use that every day with how I speak, my confidence when I talk to my students, when I talk to my parents. Leading a classroom is leading from where you are, and collaborating with my administration, my team, working together. That is all from being able to do that successfully, is all from what I learned in ed leadership. And then moving into reading literacy and learning. So I had, like I said earlier, I lived with my kindergarten students up to first grade, and I'm teaching them right now in first grade. And I have watched in real time what I'm learning and reading literacy and learning impact their growth. And my students, as of our third quarter testing, they're all reading on a second grade level. And I would not have been able to teach that if it wasn't for what I've learned from my professors with reading literacy and learning. And then putting it all together, the combination of reading and ed leadership, I think that is how I can best support my students. That's what it's all about, is helping them grow, helping their literacy development, helping them become successful people, and cultivating that love for reading. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I have to just say, as of today, your students are published authors. And I happen to see on social media, Allison, that your students very proudly displaying that they are published authors, that you have a love of literacy in your classroom that is evident in your students, and also I think is just thriving in your community. So I just want to provide some kudos there that are richly deserved, because you're doing a fine job.
Thank you.
So with any of the roles that you've either held in the past or that you currently hold, it's very clear to me, and as I'm sure it's clear to our listeners, that you desire to make an impact. You make your mark wherever you land. So what motivates you, Allison, to give back to others, specifically to your teachers and your students?
Yeah, I think my students, they are seeing their faces in the morning is the best part of my day. Learning from them as much as I get to teach them is what inspires me to do better. It was them that inspired me to continue my graduate journey. And one of the coolest things about education is you are a lifelong learner, and I learn just as much from them as they do from me. And so I think they are my biggest inspiration.
I cannot love that more, and I certainly feel ya. So I think any of us who have ever dipped our toes even in the field of education can feel that, and I'm sure that resonates with a lot of us. You mentioned a lot of different ways that you have integrated 2 degrees into a practical application, into giving back to your community. What's next for Allison? Where are you going next with this?
Absolutely. So right now, I am loving the classroom. I love being down here with them every day, seeing their growth. In first grade, I am seeing growth every single day, and it is incredible. And it is my passion and my spark, and I'm loving that right now. I think eventually I would love to be a reading specialist and use that RLL degree and the ed leadership degree together to be a reading specialist and support teachers in that role. And down the road, I would love to work in administration and possibly do something with curriculum development. I have such a passion for reading, and supporting students and teachers or anybody that's interested with reading and staying in education and continuing to try to make a difference and learning and continuing to learn.
Of course, because there are more degrees to be had, right? But I'm glad that you mentioned a reading specialist or an instructional coach. It sounds very much like you blending all of the learning that you've received here at Longwood in your multiple graduate programs. That would be a natural way for you to give back. And you seem to be doing that already in the work that you're doing now. So I guess in terms of making an impact in that way, maybe as a reading specialist or an instructional coach, maybe going into curriculum development work, are there any specific literary influences or authors or books that maybe have shaped your teaching philosophy or maybe inspired you to pursue these degrees?
I think Katie Gardner, and she is the developer of Secret Stories, and they are right behind me on my wall. She created different ways and little posters and kind of silly ways that letters come together to make different sounds. So you have the digraph S and H come together, and they're in the library and they say shh. So she just was so silly with phonics, and using these in my classroom, I credit that to my students reading, and they use these and they apply these and they love these. And I think she was a big inspiration in going into reading literacy and learning about, and in that degree, learning about how that works and why that works was a really cool experience as well.
So you mentioned some ways that you really instill that love of learning, and particularly with reading in the classroom. So you know, and I know that fostering a reading culture goes beyond the four walls of a classroom. So how do you see yourself as a contributor to getting kids excited about reading at home and on the bus and out in the community, and really developing that broader culture of reading and loving literacy outside of school?
I think it's important to start that love here, and anything I can do here to help their spark grow for reading, I do. Some examples of that are I have my library with free choice reading. They can pick whatever books they want. I have a little corner in my classroom for reading that they can use flexible seating. They can read to a book buddy. So having a cozy environment that they want to go to and is a calming space for them helps with their development for reading. And then also exposing them to different types of literature. So we have book club and stations with small group where they're exposed to different kinds of books, whether it be nonfiction or fiction or chapter books or whatever it would be, whatever helps spark their interest. And then we do that same with read aloud. So they're getting tastes of each thing, and hopefully that will spark their love for reading.
You, Allison, radiate warmth and love. And so I don't doubt that your classroom environment is the most positive learning space for students. So what strategies then do you employ, maybe with your parents? So you said it starts with you, and you've got lots of different ways that you engage students in the classroom. How do you help your parents and the community to support a love of reading as well?
So right now, what we do is, so to keep that spark going here, hopefully keep it going at home. My kids take their books home, and I encourage parents to read with them and talk to them about what they're reading. Language is such a huge part of learning to read, along with the language comprehension, the word recognition. So using those two together is how we get kids to read, which helps get them excited about reading. So making sure I can provide parents with those books so they can go home and read with their kids. Talking about the reading is really important. And then I also tell them what I'm doing here. So I tell them here, I have a little cozy corner that they want to go to. It's really easy to implement at home, and I give them some strategies on how they can help create a little cozy reading corner for their students as well.
I love that, Allison. I think that's wonderful, and something that's tangible that parents can do at home to really reinforce what you're doing at school. I think that's great strategies. You do a lot. You are busy wrapping up degrees, thinking about other things that you're going to do. You're teaching, you're doing all the things, and balancing all the things, and doing it all with a smile on your face, might I add. But also, you're networking with people too, and you're constantly considering ways in which to engage in professional development. You mentioned earlier that we keep learning. That's what we do. We love to learn. As educators, we love to learn. How do you approach networking in our field? And might there be specific connections that you've made or different collaborations that you've had that have really helped influence your journey?
I think another reason why Longwood is so special is because of the professors. Every single job I have held from undergrad to here, every role, a professor from Longwood has been a reference on. And that networking, I wouldn't have any of the roles that I've had without y'all. And then deeper than that, my cohort in ed leadership actually introduced me to the school that I'm currently at. So if it wasn't for my ed leadership cohort, I wouldn't be at the school I am now, which wouldn't have inspired me to do reading, literacy, and learning. So it all really builds on the relationships that I made at Longwood.
I think the relationships make Longwood special anyway, but you're right. When we build those relationships that then transition into our work life, I just think that's fantastic. And we can keep leaning on one another as a family. I think that is a special thing about Longwood. So thank you for sharing that. I guess sitting here now, Allison, you're approaching the completion of your graduate endorsement in reading, literacy, and learning, and you've shared some aspirations about your future, some maybe what ifs and what I mights, but how do you see yourself contributing to that broader landscape of education, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years?
Absolutely. I want to keep learning, like I've said. I want to soak in all the information I can, not only from articles and from professors, but from my students and seeing what works and collaborating. My teammate and I are constantly collaborating on new ideas and new research that we're seeing in not only literacy, but math and social emotional development. So continuing to talk to people and have important discussions around education is how I hope to contribute. And all those conversations come back to uplifting students and helping them grow.
It sounds like you have a plan. It sounds like you are already doing some tremendous work in the field. And I, for one, thank you very much. I think elementary educators have a special place in my heart since I have an elementary-aged son, and I really value the work that you do. I'm so very thankful that you were able to merge 2 incredible degrees and use them in such a practical way. And I just thank you so much for being here today, Allison, and sharing your journey. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to share maybe with someone who's considering Longwood as a pathway?
If you are considering Longwood, it is the best thing you could possibly do. I truly mean that I would not be who I am today if it weren't for Longwood and the people that make up Longwood. It is the most special school. I think it is magical. Longwood is the best.
Thank you, Allison. I couldn't agree more. And we are a better place having had you here as a student, as an alumna, and we can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we can't wait to see you all next time on Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. We hope these stories have sparked motivation and empowerment, shining a spotlight on the incredible potential within Longwood's graduate and professional studies community. Leadership is in our blood. Is it in yours? We're here to support your educational journey and career aspirations. To explore our graduate programs and professional endorsement, head over to our website at longwood.edu/grad program.